I've been engaged to my cousin for 10 years, and he despises me. He finds me sickly, quiet, dull, and boring. He even deliberately lured me into a stranger's room, just to amuse himself watching me panic. At the Lantern Festival, County Princess Jiamin lost her jade hairpin. Ji Jing, without waiting for any investigation, threw me into Dali Temple prison, without distinguishing right from wrong. When grandmother learned of this, she was furious, and immediately ordered the Duke of England's manor to severely punish Shi Jing. The Duke of England said shamefully, "Jinger has been so foolish, perhaps we should just call off the engagement. Yenner is talented and virtuous, and with the Duke's manor as her backing, even the most prominent gentleman in the capital would be a worthy match." Upon hearing this, grandmother's expression remained stern, but I suddenly raised my eyes. What about the crown prince? Would he be a worthy match too? Ever since I came out of Dali Temple prison, my health has not improved. Apart from being born frail, with a weak constitution. It was also because those lashes in prison were truly unbearable. The day the Duke's manor sent people to pick me up, my back was torn and bleeding, my breath hanging by a thread. Aunt held my hand by the bed, sobbing uncontrollably. Yenner has suffered so much. I never expected that wretched son would do something so utterly heartless. You are his cousin. At that time I was still conscious, and turned my head to look around the room. The Xia family relatives crowded the entire room. Only the one who personally sent me to prison was nowhere to be seen. Later I heard from Yu Qin that right after the Lantern Festival, Shi Jing accompanied County Princess Yamen to Mount Song to pay respects to her mother. As for the matter of throwing me in prison, he probably forgot about it. I furrowed my brows and smiled bitterly, thinking how could he have forgotten? He clearly never cared about it in the first place. Since my parents passed away 2 years ago, I came to the capital to seek refuge with grandmother Xia. This cousin of mine has never shown me a pleasant face. At first I didn't understand why, until one day second sister-in-law, wanting to ease the tension, asked me to deliver food to Shi Jing, who hadn't gotten off work yet. Through the door of the Dali Temple study, I heard him complaining to a colleague. I am a dignified 7-foot man. Why should I have to marry a sickly woman who pretends to be aloof? She barely says a word all day, and puts on that pitiful, miserable look in front of father to gain sympathy. Does she think I'll fall for that act too? If Jiamen were the one engaged to me, I definitely wouldn't feel annoyed the moment I see her. That meal naturally never got delivered. After returning, I shut myself in and cried my heart out. And the next day I came down with a high fever. From then on, I tried my best to avoid Shi Jing, staying out of his sight whenever possible. Perhaps he noticed that I was deliberately avoiding him. One day, he actually wrote a letter inviting me out. He said the chessmaster Gu Xiangzi had set up a match at a tea house, and knowing I was also skilled at chess, he specially invited me to go along. At the end of the letter, he even carefully included the time and location. I originally thought he was afraid of awkwardness on the road, which was why he didn't travel together with me. But when I arrived at the place, I didn't see any sign of Shi Jing. Just as I was pushing open the door to ask the shopkeeper, I saw a burly stranger standing there, and before I could react, he squeezed sideways through the doorway. I hurriedly grabbed my veiled hat to cover my face. Just as I was panicking, I suddenly heard light laughter from not far away. Shi Jing and County Princess Yamen strolled over, watching my flustered self as if enjoying a show. "Ah, Jing, everyone says your cousin is clever and has a photographic memory. How could she even get the location of a private room wrong? If I hadn't just asked the waiter and found out she came this way, this county princess would have truly missed such a good show." I stared blankly at Shi Jing, but he avoided my gaze and laughed along with County Princess Yamen. Only then did I understand. His invitation for me to come was nothing but a deliberate prank. If I hadn't gone to the wrong room, the moment I pushed open the door, I would have run into the stranger already waiting inside, and then been branded with the scandal of secretly meeting with an outside man. On the way back to the manor that day, I didn't say a word, but Shi Jing in the carriage was already impatient. "Wen Yangxing, what is with that face? Yamen and I were just joking with you. Why act like your life is ruined since it was all planned? Would I really not marry you because of this? He thought I was afraid he'd call off the marriage, but what I was truly afraid of was his cold and utterly rotten heart. I silently tucked the pouch I had embroidered, hoping to reconcile with him deep into my sleeve. I didn't speak to him again until we got off the carriage. Zijing looked at me, wanting to speak but holding back, and finally flung his sleeves and left, his retreating figure full of anger. It was probably from that moment on that his resentment toward me ran deep. During the Lantern Festival, County Princess Jiamin lost her jade hairpin, and she insisted that I, who was closest to her, had stolen it. Zijing didn't even give me a chance to defend myself, and immediately ordered me to be taken to the Court of Judicial Review. When Yangxing, the Xia family has treated you well, yet you did such a thing as stealing. Stay in this prison and reflect on yourself for a night. He left with a cold sneer, leaving me alone trapped in this cold and gloomy prison. Though it was called reflection, the jailers still tortured me. The moment before I passed out, I vaguely saw a corner of gold-threaded clothing flash by the prison door. Perhaps just as Zijing said. This was probably another cruel joke. After early spring, Zijing returned from Mount Song. Aunt had already ordered that no sisters in the household were to spread word about him having me imprisoned. First, he had abused his authority, and if word got out, his official position might be at risk. Second, Uncle had always been cautious at court, and if he found out about this, Zijing would surely be severely punished. To comfort me, Aunt invited renowned physicians and sent many rare medicinal herbs and tonics. She also often came to the courtyard to keep me company, offering gentle words of comfort. Her heartache over my plight was genuine, and so was her resentment toward Zijing's ruthless actions. But her desire to protect her own flesh and blood was also real. Now, with my uncle and grandmother still at the mountain temple for spiritual cultivation. Although she didn't explicitly ask me to conceal this matter, she gripped my hand tightly and said with shame yet determination, "Rest assured, Yanner, your cousin has done such a cruel thing. Your aunt will never let him off." Therefore, after Zijing returned to the residence, before he could even rest, he was immediately confined in the ancestral hall. Miss nearly lost her life in prison. Does the Duchess really think confining 5th young Master Xia for a few days can just brush this matter aside? The courtyard gate was open, and Yu Qin deliberately raised her voice as she spoke in the courtyard. She had been by my side since childhood and came with me from Qingzhou. On the day I was arrested and thrown into prison, she was the first to return to the residence to report the news. Forget it, Yu Qin. Aunt has done enough. Since I am fine now, let's just let this matter pass. I smiled bitterly with resignation. Besides, in the end, I am still going to marry him. Miss Yu Qin opened her mouth to speak, but didn't know how to comfort me. After a long while, she said softly, "If only the old madam were here. She dotes on you so much, she would surely stand up for you. Indeed, if grandmother knew about this, she would surely back me up." But getting her to agree to break off the engagement with Zijing would probably not be easy. Back then, she married off her most beloved daughter, my mother, far away to Qingzhou. The early days of the marriage were not smooth. Mother suffered greatly, serving her parents-in-law while enduring her husband's cold treatment. Later, the family circumstances changed. Grandfather and grandmother passed away from illness one after another. Yet mother remained devoted, carefully managing the household. Father was moved by her, and the couple finally reconciled. Unfortunately, the good days didn't last many years. The two encountered bandits on their way to pray for blessings. Both perished, leaving me alone in this world. Therefore, grandmother became even more convinced that arranging the engagement between Zijing and me back then was a wise decision. At least with her around and with uncle here, the main Xia family would always protect me. So whenever she saw Zijing showing distaste for me, she would always speak up to reprimand him. Yet it only made him resent me even more. I was deep in thought when Aunt's maidservant suddenly came to deliver a message, saying a guest had come to see me. I straightened my clothes, went out, and entered the hall. There, besides Aunt and several sisters, County Princess Guillaume was prominently seated. Before I even got close, I saw her gently tug at Aunt's sleeve and say softly, "Auntie, please spare a Jing." He was guarding day and night at Mount Song and was already exhausted. He just got back, and you've already confined him. Isn't that a bit too harsh? Aunt smiled helplessly and patted her hand. For the county princess to care so much about Jinger is his blessing, but his behavior this time was truly excessive. Confining him is already a light punishment. The county princess's cherry lips parted slightly, as if wanting to persuade further. Catching me approaching from the corner of her eye, she smiled charmingly. "Oh my, Miss Wen is here. Still so delicate like a willow in the wind, I couldn't even hear your footsteps. I suppose if you were eavesdropping on something, it wouldn't be easy for others to notice." She deliberately emphasized the word, eavesdropping. I calmly curtsied to her and my aunt, smiling faintly. Yangsing wouldn't dare. If I were carelessly charged with some crime and thrown into prison again, I really couldn't bear such back and forth. As soon as these words came out, my aunt's face showed embarrassment. County Princess Jiamen also seemed choked. Her lips pressed together slightly, her delicate brows raised. She said impatiently, "All right, that jade hairpin was accidentally lost by my maidservant. Last time this county princess wrongly accused you. Sorry about that. But who told you to stand right behind me at that time? Miss Wen is so well read. Don't you know about avoiding suspicion in compromising situations? Suspecting you was unavoidable." She smiled. "But I came specially today to apologize to you." Having said that, she gave a look to the maidservant beside her. The maidservant presented a wooden box. I didn't take it, and Yuqin didn't move either. Seeing the county princess's expression darken slightly, third cousin beside us quickly took it first. "Haha, since it is from Yamen, I have to see what good thing it is." As she spoke, she opened the box, and her smile instantly froze on her face. Everyone looked over, only to see a jade hairpin lying in the box, exactly the same as the one the county princess lost during the Lantern Festival. I thought, since Miss Wen has suffered the false accusation of stealing the hairpin, why not give you this jade hairpin? I specially had someone make it according to the original design. From now on, no one can criticize either of us. It seems the apology is fake, and deliberately disgusting me is the real purpose. I smiled helplessly and looked at my aunt. When I came just now, I heard the county princess mention fifth cousin's matter. Yangsing was also thinking of persuading aunt to lift the confinement. As they say, I haven't seen him these days, and I miss him so. This wasn't the first time she expressed her love so openly. But saying it in front of me, his fiancé, still left much to the imagination. Aunt pondered for a moment, seeing that the county princess was relentless, and I, the aggrieved party, had also relented. She finally nodded in agreement. She looked at me apologetically. "Yonner, come with us too. It is a good chance to have your cousin apologize to you in person." However, what awaited me was not an apology, but a torrent of scolding from Shijing right off the bat. "When Yangsing, I only had you reflect in the prison for one night. Did you really have to go complain to mother?" He glared at me with undisguised disgust. "Do you think just because you are frail, everyone should give in to you? Even if you didn't steal the jade hairpin, why did you keep silent and not defend yourself the entire way from the Lantern Festival Street to the Court of Judicial Review? You just wanted to use your arrest to play the victim and gain my parents' sympathy. A woman as scheming as you who would dare marry you." As his words fell, the entire hall went silent. County Princess Yamen's lips nearly curled upward, yet she still lowered her eyes and spoke softly. "Ah, Jing, don't say that. It was our fault to begin with. Why blame Miss Wen further?" Third cousin's sister held my arm and glared at Shi Jing with disappointment. "How can Jingdi still not know to repent even now? You speak so lightly of wrongly accusing Yangsing. Do you know what she went through in prison, enough?" Zi Jing abruptly cut her off. "Who cares what happened to her in prison? Since I've already been punished, let this matter end here." With that, he took the county princess's hand, his tone softening. Yaman. I'll escort you back. The county princess agreed with a smile, a trace of smugness flashing in her eyes as she glanced at me. The two left as if no one else existed. Aunt stared blankly at Shi Jing's retreating figure, her body swaying slightly. I hurriedly steadied her, only to hear her murmuring, "Jinger wasn't like this before. What has happened to him now?" She looked at me, then at third cousin's sister, but no one could answer. I smiled bitterly. Perhaps he has never met someone who disgusts him as much as I do. The moment the words left my mouth, I realized I had misspoken. Seeing the two of them looking dazed and distraught, I softened my voice to console them. "Aunt, please don't grieve. Cousin doesn't resent you." As the county princess said, he worked hard guarding at Songshan and was confined as soon as he returned home without rest. So naturally, he is upset. He has so many complaints today. Perhaps since I arrived, uncle and aunt have focused more attention on me, and cousin felt neglected, which is why he acted so impulsively. Once he calms down, Yangxing will find an opportunity to talk with him properly, and he will eventually understand. At this point, my throat felt slightly parched, and I continued softly. I also hope Aunt won't say things like, "He was never like this before" anymore. If he learns that even his own birth mother doesn't understand his current state of mind, and even denies who he is now, cousin Shi Jing would surely be very hurt. Before I finished speaking, I had already fallen into a warm embrace. "Yanner is so sensible, how can Aunt bear this?" Her eyes glistened with tears as she gently stroked my cheek. "Yanner, rest assured, as long as Aunt is here, I will never let you suffer any grievance. Even if Jinger is unwilling to marry you, you are still my own daughter." Wept for a long time, feeling indignant on my behalf, and also heartbroken for her own son. By the time I returned to the courtyard, the sky had already darkened. Yu Qin followed me into the room, helping me change clothes while looking glum. Why must Miss speak for that scum? He did such a heartless thing, and if not for your kind persuasion, Madam would never have let him out so quickly. It would be fine if he wasn't grateful, but he even humiliated you in public, and left hand in hand with the county princess. If you truly marry this man, in the future. As if already foreseeing that dark and hopeless future, Yu Qin was already choking up. Her apricot-like eyes quickly filled with tears. I raised my hand to wipe away her tears that were about to fall, and said gently, "Yu Qin, I've made you worry. When grandmother returns from her Buddhist worship, I will bring up the matter of breaking off the engagement." Then I comforted her with a smile. "At worst, we'll return to Qingzhou. Though it is just the two of us, perhaps we'd be more free and happy instead." Yu Qin nodded heavily, crying even louder. In the quiet of the deep night, I sat alone before the vanity. On the table still lay the apology gift that County Princess Yaman sent today. She had indeed wronged me. On the night of the Lantern Festival, I saw with my own eyes how she threw the jade hairpin at her feet while Shi Jing had his back turned, then immediately accused me after leaving. I suppose she was merely testing Shi Jing's feelings, to see if he still trusted her as before, and whether he would defend me. The result was naturally as she wished. However, to say she entirely wronged me. I opened the cosmetic case and took out another identical jade hairpin from the hidden compartment. That might not be entirely true. And so, the farce of the Lantern Festival was thus put behind us. The Duke of Ying's residence returned to its former peace. Aunt had originally wanted to have a proper talk with Shi Jing before Uncle returned. But whether it was piled up official duties or deliberate avoidance, she couldn't tell. Since then, he had been staying at the Court of Judicial Review and never returned to the manor. Moreover, with the Empress Dowager's birthday approaching, Aunt, as an outer court noblewoman, was exhausted from preparing congratulatory gifts, busy beyond measure all day long. Thus, the conversation between mother and son kept being delayed. Second sister-in-law Zheng, seeing Aunt gloomy all day, couldn't bear to add to her worries. So she came to find me. She first inquired warmly about my injuries, then tactfully stated her purpose. "I know fifth brother has wronged cousin, but as the saying goes, harmony in the family leads to prosperity in all things. This stalemate can't go on forever. A man always needs to save face. If cousin is willing to take a step back first, fifth brother will surely be willing to come down from his high horse. Speaking of which, when I first arrived in the capital, and was on bad terms with Xi Jing, it was also she who advised me to take the initiative to make nice. The Xia manor had many sisters and sisters-in-law, like a garden full of flowers, each with their own fragrance. Zheng was the most virtuous and gentle one among them. She adhered strictly to the lessons for women. Second cousin kept numerous mistresses outside, and the back courtyard was constantly filled with beauties. Yet she never spoke of jealousy and accepted them all. After all, harmony in the family leads to prosperity in all things. I smiled without speaking, and Zheng thought I was going to refuse. She picked up her handkerchief and sighed softly. Yangxing doesn't know, but mother-in-law has lost quite a bit of weight lately. If I hadn't seen how haggard she looked, I would never have come to trouble you. Just as I was about to respond, Yu Qin beside me could no longer hold back and raised her voice. Second young madam's words make no sense. The madam is haggard, but is my young miss not haggard too? My young miss's injuries haven't fully healed, yet you are urging her to see the very person who hurt her. You speak of feeling ashamed, but you haven't done one less shameful thing. Does young madam know how fifth young master Xia humiliated my young miss? You so lightly ask her to yield. But have you considered if fifth young master Xia thinks my young miss is weak and easy to bully and intensifies his behavior after marriage? Should my young miss be like you, living harmoniously in the same courtyard with outside women and concubines? Yu Qin, hold your tongue. I sternly stopped her transgression, then turned to look at Lady Zheng. Seeing her frozen in place, her face pale, I hurriedly grasped her hand and said gently, "Second sister-in-law, please don't take this girl's words to heart. She is just worried about my injuries and spoke without thinking." Lady Zheng forced a smile, but it only looked more strained. I said slowly, "Yangxing has only been in the Xia household for 2 years, dull and unrefined, hardly able to claim deep understanding of the family's temperaments. But I know that second sister-in-law mediates conflicts in the inner courtyard, and assists mother-in-law with household management in the front. Even if others may not understand, your virtue and painstaking efforts, Yangxing has seen them all." She suddenly raised her eyes as if not expecting me to say this. I continued softly, "Others may think second sister-in-law's tolerance of concubines is mere forbearance. But I believe this is precisely proof of second cousin's trust and reliance on you." These words struck right at her heart. Madame Zheng's eyes lit up, and her smile became genuine. Yangxing truly understands me. I lowered my gaze with a faint smile, steering the conversation back to the main topic. Actually, even if second sister-in-law hadn't come today, Yangxing was planning to find an opportunity to speak with fifth cousin. Having promised aunt, I won't go back on my word. I just didn't expect second sister-in-law and I to be so like-minded. It truly delights me. Upon hearing this, her brow relaxed, and as if meeting a kindred spirit, she held my hands and shared her experiences in managing the inner chambers in detail. Nearly an hour passed before she reluctantly took her leave. After she left, I looked at Yu Qin. "Well done." Yu Qin pursed her lips, just speaking from the heart. The Empress Dowager's birthday banquet was not something everyone could attend. In previous years, only the Duke of Ying and his wife, along with 3 brothers who had entered officialdom, were qualified to enter the palace to offer birthday congratulations. However, Madame Zheng came from a prestigious family and had frequently accompanied her mother into the palace since childhood. Her name was also on the guest list for this banquet. I originally thought that by befriending her, I might gain an opportunity to accompany her into the palace. Playing off each other, one soft and one hard, it truly brought us closer. Who would have thought that after all my efforts, I would receive an invitation from County Princess Yamen the very next day? The invitation stated that she believed the suffering I endured in prison could not be compensated by a mere jade hairpin. So she specially requested permission before the Empress Dowager to invite me into the palace for the banquet. There must be something fishy about this, but such opportunities are rare. The night before the birthday banquet, my aunt sent someone to deliver ceremonial attire. I was admiring the magnificent beauty of the capital's embroidery with Yu Qin by the window. Suddenly, a cold laugh came from outside the window. Truly a country bumpkin who has never seen the world making such a fuss over a mere dress. I looked up and saw Xi Jing leaning against the wall with his arms crossed under the moonlight. His gaze arrogant, the moonlight fell between his brows and eyes. His features distinct, yet adding a touch of coldness. I stepped back in shock. Before I could collect myself, he had already pushed the door open and entered. "Cousin, this is improper." "What is improper about it? Aren't we betrothed?" These words made my skin crawl, and I instinctively moved toward the vase beside me. Xi Jing sneered. "What are you panicking for? Don't flatter yourself. I came today to say something." He still had that arrogant and contemptuous look, yet somehow lacked some of the sharp disgust from before. "Please speak." I pressed my lips together. Seeing this, he paused slightly and mocked. "The Imperial Palace is a restricted area. How could someone of your status be allowed to come and go freely? If your words or actions are improper and disgrace the Xia family, how could you bear the responsibility?" These words were truly laughable. I looked at him. "May I ask, dear cousin, what could be more improper than barging into a lady's chamber in the dead of night?" He was momentarily at a loss for words, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. As if not expecting me to retort, his gaze toward me held a hint of curiosity. I turned around to fetch the jade hairpin that County Princess Xiaoming had sent a few days ago from the dressing table, presenting it before him. "Cousin has known the County Princess since childhood, so you must understand the meaning behind her gifting this hairpin better than Yangxing does." I lowered my eyes with a bitter smile. How could someone as frail and lowly as Yangxing dare to defy the County Princess's wishes? The room fell silent for a moment, with only the candle flame flickering and the evening breeze brushing against the window. Xi Jing stared at the jade hairpin for a moment, then reached out and snatched it away, saying coldly, "Suit yourself. However, you don't deserve to own the same thing as Yamen." The next morning, I accompanied my aunt and her entourage into the palace to offer congratulations. I had a reason why I absolutely had to attend this banquet. A few days ago, I heard Sixth Sister mention that she had seen soldiers from the Prince of Yu's residence escorting an iron cage through the streets, with what appeared to be the shadow of a tiger inside. It was presumably prepared for the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration. Lady Zheng told me that this Prince of Yu was fond of arranging lively entertainments to please the Empress Dowager. He had specially sought out several exotic men with thick brows and deep-set eyes from foreign merchants, and sent them to Signing Palace to perform dances, which delighted the Empress Dowager so much that she praised him profusely before the Emperor. Afterward, the Emperor came to rely on the Prince of Yu much more. When Prince Ying, Li Yunqian, learned of this, he intended to imitate it, and somehow found 7 dwarfs to form a dance troupe. Who knew that when the Empress Dowager saw those few people struggling to move about, their postures comical, not only did she not laugh, but felt pity instead, and gave Prince Ying a scolding. Actually, one can't blame Prince Ying for trying so hard. His Majesty values filial piety above all. And with the position of Crown Prince vacant, the princes naturally spare no effort to perform well in front of the Empress Dowager. In the past, second sister-in-law Zheng would never have discussed such secrets with me. Now that she is willing to share these matters not meant for outsiders, she must truly regard me as one of her own. What about the third prince, Prince Mu? I followed up and asked, has he also tried to please the Empress Dowager like this? Upon hearing this, Madame Zheng's expression suddenly turned somewhat strange, as if embarrassed, yet also troubled. She was silent for a moment before carefully choosing her words. Prince Mu is a military general, devoted to guarding the borders and defending the nation. He is more straightforward in character. His words were put so tactfully that I was left confused at the time. However, at this moment, I completely understood in Taihe Hall. The officials' gift-giving was at its height. Prince Ying presented a 100-year-old longevity turtle, earning a smile from the Empress Dowager, neither a success nor a failure. Princess Pingyang presented a Shushan stone carving of the god of longevity, which the Empress Dowager couldn't put down, praising it repeatedly. When it came to Prince Mu, Li Yunjian's turn. He rose solemnly, his voice like a deep bell. This dagger is named Dingjiang. It was once the possession of Wei Qing, a famous general of the previous dynasty, who slew the Xiongnu and defended our borders. Today, Yunjian presents this blade to the Empress Dowager. May General Wei's heroic spirit forever protect your Majesty's sacred person, and further protect our great Shang's mountains and rivers for eternity. As his words fell, the entire Taihe Hall fell into complete silence. The earlier clamor of dance and music, the clinking of wine cups, it all felt like a dream from another lifetime. The Empress Dowager stared at the old dagger on the table, devoid of any pearls or jewels, its sheath even bearing marks of wear, her expression darkening slightly. Princess Pingyang, frank and outspoken, murmured under her breath, "Wei Qing's spirit, that sounds really creepy." As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere in the hall grew even more tense. Li Yunjian turned his head at the sound, looking puzzled. What is creepy about it? This is Wei Qing we're talking about. It is precisely because it is Wei Qing, I sighed inwardly. In the end, the emperor couldn't stand it anymore and interrupted with a frown. Enough. Prince Mu's intentions are clear to both the Empress Dowager and myself. Step back. Li Yunjian cupped his hands slightly and returned to his seat, his expression unchanged. Yangxing, why are you so happy? Perhaps it was the smile I couldn't hide at the corners of my lips that prompted Lady Zheng to quietly inquire. I was about to whisper back when I raised my eyes and met a cold, stern gaze from diagonally across. It was Prince Ma. I hurriedly lowered my eyes, my heart pounding like thunder. The atmosphere in the hall remained stagnant, and for a moment no one was willing to step forward to present gifts. Just then, County Princess Yamin gracefully rose. Your Majesty, Yamin also has a gift to present to the Empress Dowager. Today she wore a fiery red silk dress, dazzlingly radiant amidst the splendor of the hall. Seeing her, the Empress Dowager finally showed a smile. Yamin's birth mother, Grand Princess Jinyang, was the Empress Dowager's most beloved daughter. Since the princess passed away, the Empress Dowager had been especially doting on this granddaughter. What does Yamin wish to present? County Princess Yamin's lips curled slightly, her peripheral gaze seemingly sweeping over me. The cousin miss from the Duke of Ying's residence is a talented lady. The peony intertwining branches painting that recently became famous throughout the capital was from her hand. So, Yamin specially invited Miss Wen into the palace to celebrate the Empress Dowager's birthday. After speaking, she walked up to me and smiled sweetly. Miss Wen, please proceed. Whispers immediately filled the hall. No one expected that the painting highly praised by renowned masters was actually from the hand of a young lady from the inner chambers. Only then did I understand why County Princess Yamin had been holding back since this morning. She had been waiting for me here all along. Both Lady Zheng and my aunt showed alarm on their faces. They had never heard that I was going to present a gift. Before I could respond, Shi Jing from the opposite seat suddenly stood up. Your Majesty, that if Vice Minister Xia wishes to present a gift, perhaps he could wait a moment. County Princess Yamin swept a cold gaze over and cut off his words. Ji Jing had also been looking listless and restless since early this morning. So the one Jiamin specially requested permission to invite the other day was this Miss Wen. The Empress Dowager looked over with a smile. Come closer. Let me have a good look at you. I took a deep breath and slowly stepped forward to pay my respects. I heard the Empress Dowager say gently, Oh my, you truly are blessed with fine looks. Talented and beautiful. How come I've never heard anyone mention you? Replying to the Empress Dowager, this humble daughter has been sickly since childhood and rarely goes out. It is truly shameful. The Empress Dowager sighed softly. What a pity. I naturally understood the meaning behind that sigh. A beauty's fate is often short-lived, always a matter of regret. After just a moment, the Empress Dowager asked again in a gentle voice. Since that is so, what birthday gift does Miss Wen intend to present to me today? I naturally had no ready-made gift. But if I were to paint on the spot, not only would it be time-consuming, my current mental energy could hardly sustain it. County Princess Yaman had precisely counted on this. After pondering for a moment, I requested His Majesty's permission to borrow the 12 tea utensils. In truth, when it comes to the art of tea, I am far inferior to my mother. My temperament is not as serene as my appearance suggests, and the tea foam I whisk can never achieve that level of delicacy and smoothness. Yet even so, I was still confident I had one skill to offer. As the whispers in the hall gradually turned into exclamations of wonder, in less than half an incense stick's time, I handed the completed tea art to a eunuch, who presented it before the Empress Dowager. This humble subject borrows the meaning of stabilizing the frontier from His Highness Prince Mu to paint this mountains, rivers, and crane longevity. May the mountains and rivers of Great Shang stand firm forever, steady as bedrock. I respectfully wish Her Majesty the Empress Dowager longevity, like the crane for 1,000 years, blessed with auspicious peace and good health. The Empress Dowager and the Emperor looked down at the tea bowl, both showing expressions of admiration. I secretly let out a breath of relief, then turned my gaze toward the instigator of all this. She was staring blankly at Shi Jing, her face wooden. I followed her gaze and was met with Shi Jing's surprised yet gentle eyes. This time it was truly over. I had no way of knowing what exactly had happened between those two. The only thing I could deduce was that after Shi Jing left my courtyard last night, he probably had a quarrel with the county princess. As for the reason for the quarrel, that was beyond what I could find out. The birthday banquet gift presentation was not yet over, with the Prince of Yu appearing as the finale. What he had prepared was an animal circus performance, set on an open-air stage beside the Hall of Supreme Harmony. The Emperor and Empress Dowager took their seats under a temporarily erected yellow silk canopy. Since the seating arrangement was not strictly fixed, there remained an empty seat beside the imperial throne. The Prince of Yu was just about to step forward when he heard the Emperor speak. "Janner, you haven't returned to the capital in so long. Today, come sit beside me." Prince Mu was slightly startled, then bowed his head in compliance and took his seat beside the Son of Heaven. The Emperor whispered with a smile, "You child, your birthday gift is too sincere. That relic of the famous general, it must have taken quite some effort to find." No, indeed, it was no easy task. But this son believes that if this object truly carries the heroic spirit of General Wei, it will surely protect grandmother and father emperor, and moreover bless our great Shang's mountains and rivers. Just as I was listening intently to the conversation between that imperial father and son, the circus had already begun. A massive, fierce tiger stepped into the arena under the beast tamer's guidance, its striped fur rising and falling slightly with each breath, a low growl suppressed in its throat, its presence overwhelming. This was the first time in my life I had seen a real tiger with my own eyes. I gazed at the beast with complete concentration, entirely unaware that someone had quietly sat down beside me. "When Yangxing, you do have some skills." County Princess Xiaomen's voice came in a low tone. "Stealing all the spotlight today, you must be feeling quite pleased with yourself, right?" I chuckled helplessly. "County Princess, those words are rather confusing. Wasn't Yangxing pushed before His Majesty by you today?" "Hemph, why pretend to be foolish? Knowing full well of my hostility, you still dared to accept the invitation and come. Did you think this county princess would be deceived by that innocent appearance of yours? Just like Shi Jing? Why does the county princess say such things? Cousin Shi Jing has always believed me to be deeply scheming. It is precisely because of this that he dislikes me and despises me." County Princess Jiamen let out a cold snort through her nose. "When Yanks, even now you are still pretending. Don't you know better than me what kind of feelings Shi Jing has for you?" Her voice trembled slightly, forcibly suppressing her emotions as she lowered her volume. "I grew up with Jing since childhood. I understand him better than anyone. If he truly despised you, didn't care about you, he should have ignored you completely, been utterly indifferent. How could it be like this? Such dramatic disdain, such superficial anger." She took a deep breath, a self-mocking curve forming at the corner of her lips. "He is trying to protect you, To stop me from doing anything more excessive, he pretended to be biased and punished you first without distinguishing right from wrong. That time at the tea house was like this, and so was the Lantern Festival. Does he think I can't see through his protection? If he truly despised this marriage, he could have just watched coldly as I tormented you. But the result. She suddenly grabbed my wrist and leaned in close. Last night he returned the jade hairpin to me and told me to stop bullying you. I demanded he break off the engagement in exchange. Guess what he said? I truly like Yang. I truly want to marry her. Please stop framing her. That is how he pleaded. When Yang, if it were you, what would you think? Look, seeing me approach you, he is looking over with worry again right now. You must be quite pleased with yourself, right? Though she kept her voice low. Her emotions churned like boiling water, making me faintly uneasy. Only then did I notice that. At some point, several maids dressed in crimson had already gathered behind me. Though tigers aren't keen at distinguishing colors, if they see red shadows fluttering about, they'll still take it as provocation. I've long had people feed this beast madness-inducing drugs. Even the beast tamers won't be able to hold it back. Jiamin's fingers tightened, gripping my arm until it ached, as an eerie smile bloomed on her lips. Jiamin, you've gone mad. I stared at her steadily. You are wearing red and sitting beside me. Aren't you afraid the tiger will turn on you? That is precisely my purpose. Her gaze drifted vacantly toward Xi Jing's direction. I just want to know when life and death hang by a thread. Will he choose me, who has been by his side since childhood, or you, whom he has only known for 2 years? She turned back to gaze at me, her voice soft as a whisper. If he rushes over, one of us might have a chance to survive. If he doesn't come, I'll die with you, and we'll see who Xi Jing will think of more for the rest of his life. Tears glistened in her eyes, her gaze intertwined with heartbreaking hatred and sorrow. In the arena, the beast tamer had already set up the flaming iron hoop, completely oblivious to the restless agitation of the tiger beside him. Looking at the nearly deranged woman before me, I spoke calmly. County Princess, regardless of whom Xi Jing chooses, neither of us will die. Secondly, I wish for this marriage engagement to be annulled even more than you do. And lastly, I let out a soft sigh. To fall this deeply for a man, even betting your life on it, it is truly not worth it. The wild frenzy in Jiamin's eyes gradually faded, replaced by a blank confusion. Her lips parted slightly, as if wanting to ask more. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept past, stirring the long branches of willows along the bank, lifting the crimson sashes of the maids. An ear-splitting tiger's roar tore through the sky. The maddened tiger suddenly snapped its iron chains and lunged straight at us. At the final moment, Yamin was truly afraid. She shut her eyes tight and clung to me desperately. I saw the crowd scattering in panic, saw second sister-in-law, an aunt calling out to me with tears in their eyes, and saw Xi Jing running toward me in desperation, despite knowing it was futile. I raised my arms to shield Jiamin in my embrace. What came was not tiger fangs and sharp claws. The beast halted abruptly just a few feet before me. Then it suddenly turned and lunged toward the imperial canopy. What happened afterward, I can no longer recall clearly. The wound on my back hurt terribly. Even without seeing it myself, I knew it must have torn open again. When the beast lunged at me, I was far more terrified than I had imagined. Though I had advised County Princess Yamin not to bet her life, wasn't I doing the very same thing? The moment the tiger turned and left, my mind went slack with relief. Then the world spun around me, and I could hold on no longer. The last glimpse before my eyes closed in a daze was Prince Mu sweeping to the throne like lightning, snatching Ding Jiang from the eunuch's hands and slaying the mad tiger within a few strikes. General Wei's heroic spirit had manifested. I was grateful. 3 days after the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet, grandmother and uncle finally returned from the mountain temple. They learned that I had been imprisoned and tortured by Xi Jing, and had fainted in the palace when my wounds split open. Grandmother was furious and immediately ordered uncle to severely punish Xi Jing. This time, aunt neither intervened nor pleaded for mercy. Xi Jing was severely beaten with 50 strokes by family law, and once again confined in the ancestral hall to reflect on his wrongs. My sick grandmother tightly held my hand, tears falling endlessly. Dear Yanner, with your grandmother and uncle standing up for you, we will never let anyone bully you again. Duke of Ying looked grave, glanced at me, then turned to persuade grandmother. Jinger has become so muddled. This marriage agreement, perhaps it would be better to call it off, lest the two spend the rest of their lives resenting each other. Before he could finish, grandmother sharply cut him off. Ji Jing is muddled, and so are you. If we annul this agreement, whom would you have Yanner marry? What marriage could be more secure than one within our own family? Would you have my Yanner end up like Aruo, unable to return to her homeland until death? Once these words were spoken, the Duke of Ying could no longer press further. I hadn't expected that even after things had come to this, grandmother would still insist on maintaining this marriage agreement. Just as I was about to speak, the wound on my back throbbed with a sharp pain. Just then, Madame Zheng, who had been standing silently to the side for a long while, suddenly spoke. Old ancestor, your granddaughter-in-law is bold enough to implore you to annul the marriage between Yangxing and fifth brother. Grandmother looked over in astonishment, never expecting that the person who valued family harmony the most would utter such words. Madame Zheng gazed at my pale face, her eyes filled with pity. The suffering Yangxing has endured since coming to the capital. How could it be from fifth brother alone? That county Princess Yamin treats her like an enemy, repeatedly trying to have her killed. Being imprisoned and tortured was one instance. Luring the tiger at the birthday banquet was another. Your granddaughter-in-law saw it with her own eyes. She didn't hesitate to wear red to lure that mad tiger toward her, willing to perish together with Yangxing just to be rid of her. Under grandmother's horrified gaze, Madame Zheng knelt down on the ground, pleading again through tears. You and father can protect her from the hands of the powerful and noble, but can you also protect her from the hands of imperial relatives? It would be better to just let Yangxing go. Grandmother was stunned into silence. Before she could respond, my tears had already fallen onto the brocade quilt. Grandmother remained silent for a long time. She certainly knew that the Duke's manor couldn't shield against all the storms of this world. Ever since experiencing the pain of losing her daughter, she had been determined to keep me under her and uncle's protection. Thus, no matter how poorly Xie Jing treated me, she refused to annul the engagement. In her eyes, I was never marrying Xie Jing, but rather the Duke's manor as my backing. That is all. Like mother, like daughter. My parents' story was certainly stirring and moving. But my mother didn't yield when mistreated by her in-laws, and didn't abandon my father when he fell on hard times. It wasn't to exchange for that bit of trivial gratitude from him later. She just wanted to prove that even in such a rotten family, she could live well. That is all. As for me, I just want to break off the engagement. That is all. The inner chamber was silent as death. Finally, the Duke of Ying spoke again. Mother need not worry too much. Yanner is intelligent and refined, and with the Duke's mansion as her support, even the most prominent and outstanding young man in the capital would be a worthy match. She certainly won't waste half her life like Aruo did. Grandmother's expression still wavered with uncertainty. Yet my mind suddenly stirred, and I abruptly raised my head, asking softly, according to what Uncle said, if it were the crown prince, would he also be a worthy match? There was one thing Xie Jing said in the past that wasn't wrong. I did indeed intend to win the sympathy of the Duke's mansion's relatives. But aside from that, there were many things too unspeakable to mention. For instance, to prevent my wounds from healing before grandmother returned, I secretly took medicinal decoctions that would counteract it. For instance, at the birthday banquet, using the opportunity of preparing tea, I placed a handkerchief soaked in deer blood wine beneath the tea cloth used to wipe the Jianware tea bowl and, for instance, to mask the smell from that handkerchief, I deliberately wore a sachet filled with mugwort at my waist. If I were to recount everything I've done in detail, it would be far too lengthy. But all my painstaking efforts were for reaching the same destination. Yanner is worthy. Just these 4 words, and everything is understood. Inside an elegant room of the tea house, I arrived as invited. The one who invited me was none other than Prince Mu, Li Yongjian. It had been a month and a half since our last meeting in the palace. He, who originally guarded the frontier, had been transferred back to the capital for his merit in protecting the emperor. At this reunion, I was about to tell him that inviting a lady of the boudoir to be alone in a room was improper, but then I saw him take out a teacup from his robe and place it on the table. "This prince has only one question," he said bluntly. "How did you do it?" Since he brought this cup, he must have discovered the tiger-luring substance on its wall. Then what he was asking was probably, how did I make that tiger accurately smell the scent of deer blood wine on the Empress Dowager and precisely attack the imperial seat? I met Prince Mu's deep and solemn gaze and softly replied, "If I said it was all luck, would your highness believe me?" The man before me furrowed his thick brows slightly but did not refute. And the truth was indeed so. I had never seen a real tiger. All I knew came from a few brief words in books. But I guessed its sense of smell should surpass that of a wildcat, so I used the bloody scent of deer blood wine to lure it toward the Empress Dowager. Yet the scent attached to the cup's wall was extremely faint, let alone how much could get onto the Empress Dowager's sleeves. I was merely taking a gamble with this. The success of this plan is truly thanks to County Princess Yamin, who both arranged for me to present the tribute and drugged the tiger. Therefore, it can only be attributed to luck. As they say, a true king cannot die. Since ancient times, all who accomplish great things need the right timing and favorable conditions, and even more so, tremendous luck. Yangxing's plan went smoothly, and you escaped from the tiger's jaws. Your Highness also seized the opportunity and won the Emperor's favor. This must be what they mean. After all, I made this move precisely to do him a favor. Why choose me? Li Yunjian's gaze was pierced. If you wish to attach yourself to the royal family, Prince Yu and Prince Ying hold far more power. I lowered my eyes with a faint smile, my thoughts seeming to drift far away. Your Highness may not know this, but when I was 10, my family met with misfortune, and we encountered mountain bandits while passing through Guangzhou. There were only my mother and I in the carriage. Calling to heaven brought no answer. Crying to earth brought no response. Just when all hope was lost, suddenly an army burst out from the grass and saved us. Only later did I learn that it was the very troops your Highness led on your first assignment outside the capital. Li Yunjian was slightly startled, his lips moving faintly. If I said something like that, it would surely win your Highness's trust, right? Unfortunately, between Yangxing and your Highness, there is no such tender, emotionally convoluted past connection. This prince never believed it. I couldn't help but chuckle, and after laughing I said, actually before entering the capital, Yangxing had already thoroughly studied the temperaments of all the princes, and privately believed that your Highness Prince Mu was the most promising among them. Although Prince Yu is skilled at flattery, he cannot handle great responsibilities. Prince Ying imitates clumsily, like Dongxi frowning, making himself look like a dog. He seems to have no intention for the throne, merely playing along with Prince Yu. So last year when you deliberately went to the wrong room, it was to encounter this king by chance. I paused slightly. At that time, I hadn't actually met him in the private room. It seems during this month, he had also investigated me thoroughly. Yes, at that time, I heard your Highness had returned to the capital and was having a small gathering with friends here. My cousin happened to invite me as well, so I wanted to use the chance of entering by mistake to perhaps catch your Highness's favorable attention. I smiled faintly. Yangxing still has some confidence in her own appearance. Li Yunjian was holding his cup about to drink, but upon hearing this, his hand paused. After a moment, the side of his neck reddened slightly, and he said coldly, "You are actually this candid. Aren't you afraid this king came to arrest and imprison you? If your Highness wanted to arrest someone, why wait until all traces on the cup have faded before coming to ask?" I chuckled and asked in return, "Isn't today's invitation because you felt Yangxing still has some use?" Now I have the Duke's residence backing me, and through tea preparation and painting, I've entered the ranks of talented women in the capital. The Empress Dowager and His Majesty regard me with special favor, and because I protected the county princess at the birthday banquet, I've become the benefactor of the current Prime Minister. All that I have experienced has now become bargaining chips for today's negotiation with him. Your Highness Prince Mew, let me become your princess consort. Someone like me, skilled at winning hearts and getting along with all sides, can surely become an asset to your Highness in the inner residence. Besides, I am frail and sickly. When your Highness rises in rank and fortune someday, wouldn't it be even better if your wife were to die as well? Liunjian furrowed his brows and said nothing. The elegant room fell into a prolonged silence. Only as we were about to part did he ask me in a deep voice, "When Yangxing, since you know you are frail, why must you exhaust yourself scheming for that empress position?" I was silent for a moment, then said, "When I was 12, tell the truth. I don't want to be forgotten." I gazed steadily into his eyes. "I believe my talent and intellect are no less than anyone's. The essays and paintings I create may not be inferior to the literati of this age. Even if I cannot become an official, I still harbor a heart to serve the country. If not for my sickly body's limitations, I could accomplish far more than this." My voice paused briefly before I continued. I refuse to remain nameless in the history books, and even more so, refuse to have my life ultimately summed up by just 4 words. A beauty with a tragic fate. Someone as brilliant as me deserves a place in history. Li Yunjian was stunned, seemingly not expecting my obsession to stem from this. I laughed self-deprecatingly. Yet, despite all my lofty ambitions, the only way Yangxing can think of to leave her name in history within her limited years is to become empress, and for this, I must rely on your Highness's power. I held his gaze for a long while, and he finally looked away. Mutual benefit. His voice was deep and steady. This king will naturally help you. I watched his figure disappear through the doorway. Fortunately, he believed it. I've always believed that a person doesn't necessarily need a reason to act. Where the heart leads, where interest takes you. That is all there is to it. Unfortunately, people always love to delve into cause and effect. Even someone as upright and principled as His Highness Prince Mew couldn't escape this convention. Leaving the tea house and returning to the Duke's residence, I unexpectedly ran into Xi Jing in the covered corridor, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. Since the day he was punished by Duke Ying, he had been confined to the ancestral hall with his injuries for over half a month. After his confinement ended, we still couldn't meet due to the piled-up cases at the Court of Judicial Review. Now that we met again, the marriage arrangement between us had long ceased to exist. Our eyes met, momentarily speechless. I gave a slight bow and was about to brush past him, but he grabbed my wrist. "Yangxing, I never ordered anyone to torture you." His Adam's apple bobbed, his voice strained. The disgust I showed back then was all to deceive Yamen. She planted spies around me, and I was afraid she would harm you severely. So I had no choice but to. Everything cousin said, Yangxing already knew long ago. I knew even earlier than Jiamen did. Then why did you? Once upon a time, there was an official who, to pursue a young lady, ran from the south of the city to the north every day, just to deliver her favorite cream pastry. He also waited in a tea house from daylight until dark, just to create a chance encounter. But that lady ended up marrying someone else. Does cousin know why? Xi Jing was stunned for a moment. Was it that the lady's family wouldn't allow it? I chuckled softly. That lady never knew this was courtship, and never once felt anything for him. In fact, all of the officials' painstaking efforts to her were merely receiving some cream pastry and discovering he was a regular at the tea house. No one forced him to take the long way. No one asked him to wait bitterly. What he thought was sacrifice was nothing but one-sided self-gratification. Xi Jing stood frozen in place, his face gradually turning pale. So even if everything cousin did was to protect me, in Yangxing's eyes, it was merely you and County Princess Yamen deceiving and humiliating me together. He lowered his head and stared at the blue stone beneath his feet. After a long while, as if unwilling to accept it, he raised his head again. If I had never helped Yamen, if she hadn't interfered, would you have cousin holds the esteemed position of junior minister? Yet how can you still not understand? I called Yu Qin to return to the room and fetch a wooden box, then handed it to Xi Jing. He opened it in confusion, and inside the box was shockingly that lost jade hairpin. This is the one the county princess lost that day. I picked it up, I said calmly. If you had spoken up for me back then, I would have dropped this item to arouse your suspicion. Zijing stood as if struck by lightning, his lips trembling slightly, yet unable to utter a sound. I sighed silently. Jing, no matter what you did, no matter what Yaman did, I intended to break off this marriage from the very beginning. Because you cannot protect me, just as you could not change the fact that a fierce tiger pounced at me during the birthday banquet. I had said all there was to say. He should understand now. County Princess Yaman said he was deceived by my naive appearance. That was actually true. He was absorbed in his own play of appearing to despise while actually protecting. But had he ever considered if he had already shown such disgust? Why did the county princess still see me as a thorn in her eye? If he couldn't protect me before marriage, could he protect me after? Cousin County Princess Yaman has been confined to her residence for causing chaos at the birthday banquet. She was also excessively frightened, and remains anxious and unsettled to this day. Since you two have been friends since childhood, it would be proper for you to visit her, I said with feigned regret. You shouldn't let down another person again. With that, I turned and left, never looking back. Empress Rusheng passed away in the 14th year after Li Yunjian ascended the throne. That year, she was 34 years old. She didn't die at 20 as the Taoist priest had said, which could be considered a blessing. However, Li Yunjian never took what she said about this matter seriously. After all, she was never the kind of person who would strive and struggle just because of a prophecy. But her claim of being frail and fearing she might not live long was not mere empty words. Perhaps after marrying into the prince's manor, Li Yunjian summoned renowned physicians from across the land to nurse her health, and strictly forbade her from recklessly taking medicines that would harm herself. Aside from occasionally catching cold when seasons changed, Wen Yangxing rarely fell ill. Yunjian gradually came to believe that her health was truly improving day by day. At that time, although the Prince of Yu had temporarily lost imperial favor due to his impropriety at the birthday celebration, his foundation remained intact. After voluntarily going to Mount Qian to fast for 3 months, praying for blessings for the emperor and empress while seeking forgiveness, he quickly returned to court. If the Prince of Ying was not yet a threat to the Prince of Yu, then Prince Mu, Li Yunjian, was his true formidable rival. Li Yunjian had guarded the borders for many years, and naturally had loyal followers under his command. Having married the niece of Duke Ying, he also gained the support of the civil officials faction. Not to mention that Wen Yangxing and the legitimate daughter of the Zheng clan of Xingyang were both relatives by marriage and close friends. Given such circumstances, the odds of victory were self-evident. Seeing no hope of winning the succession, the Prince of Yu actually harbored thoughts of rebellion. The first to notice something amiss was Wen Yangxing. At Princess Pingyang's birthday banquet, the princess consort of Yu was nowhere to be seen. Upon inquiry, it was learned she had returned to Qingzhou to visit her family. This was originally beyond reproach. Yet Wen Yangxing happened to be from Qingzhou, and knew well that the place was remote with high mountains and treacherous terrain. Why would the princess consort of Yu, heavy with child, trouble herself to travel to such a remote place for no reason? She mentioned the matter to Li Yunjian, saying nothing more, only asking him to stay alert. Months later, Li Yunjian recalled her words and sent people to investigate in secret. Unexpectedly, this investigation revealed that Prince Yu had been secretly amassing troops for half a year. He had sent his wife and children far away precisely because the uprising was imminent. Your Highness truly has keen insight to have seen through Prince Yu's treasonous scheme. Yangxing is impressed. By then, they had been married for 2 years, and Li Yunjian was long accustomed to her teasing flattery. He pinched her cheek and wouldn't let go, yet his expression was grave. If you suspected early on, why didn't you say so sooner? Had I failed to notice, once he raised his army before he could finish? Wen Yangxing smiled. I was waiting precisely for him to rebel. She said she had long grown tired of Prince Yu's indecisiveness, entangled for years yet never daring to act. Tired too of his majesty who, though his mind was made up, still indulged his son's rivalry to maintain court balance. They could afford to wait, she could not. So, a year after their marriage, she orchestrated the union between the Prime Minister's household and the Duke of Ying's. That became the final straw that broke Prince Yu that winter. Prince Yu raised his army. Prince Mu quelled the rebellion. His Majesty seemed to age 10 years overnight. Soon after, Li Yunjian was invested as crown prince. The following year, the late emperor abdicated, and the new emperor ascended the throne. That year, Wen Yangxing was 20, the age at which, by her own account, she was supposed to have died. She had accomplished everything she wanted to do. Perhaps her lifelong wish had finally been fulfilled. Not long after Wen Yangxing was made empress, her health began to show signs of decline. She often furrowed her brows and pressed her chest, coughing without end. She looked weary all day long, her spirits deteriorating day by day. Whenever she woke startled in the dead of night, she would always see Li Yunjian watching her intently by her side. His fingertips gently pressed against the side of her neck, checking her pulse. Perhaps she thought of something after that. One day, she suddenly proposed the matter of selecting concubines to fill the rear palace. She said her body was weak, and pregnancy would be difficult. Even if she did conceive, she would not want to give birth. For the sake of imperial heirs, it would be better to take in new consorts while he was still young. That was their first quarrel since they married. Wen Yangxing didn't know where his anger came from. Was he angry that she was unwilling to bear him heirs? Or was he angry that she presumed he would become unable to perform before his age warranted it? She couldn't figure it out. Li Yunjian couldn't explain it either. 3 palaces and 6 courts were the norm for an emperor. He had never thought of leaving the 6 courts empty before. Recently, court officials had repeatedly submitted memorials on the matter, all of which he had politely declined. But these words coming from her mouth pierced his heart like needles. Li Yunjian felt he had been betrayed. Truth be told, what lay between him and Wen Yangxing was not like an ordinary husband and wife, but more like kindred companions walking side by side. They were confidants who understood each other completely, and trusted each other wholly. Not like Xi Jing and Jiamin, who tormented each other, nor like Pingyang and her prince consort, who were tenderly entwined. Li Yunjian couldn't figure it out, so he simply stopped thinking about it. A few days later, after court, he intended to go find her and reconcile, but he saw her slowly approaching with an infant in her arms. Before he could speak, Wen Yangxing had already said softly, "That day I was presumptuous, failing to understand your Majesty's intentions. I was just thinking, if one day Yangxing leaves your Majesty, there would still be someone by your Majesty's side for companionship, so you won't be lonely," she said. Since there were no heirs for now, why not choose one from the close branches of the imperial clan to adopt? The one in her arms was Prince Ying's newborn son. This way, even if she were to let go one day, he wouldn't be left alone facing the deep palace. Li Yunjian felt a pang in his heart, unwilling to think about that day. Yet inexplicably, because of her words, his ears grew slightly warm. Only many years later did he come to understand. During those days of quarreling and Cold War, she had already guessed the feelings he had never spoken aloud. Wen Yangxing named the imperial child Li Shuo, because the day of his birth happened to be a new moon, hence the name Shuo. Since this child entered the palace, the once quiet and lonely palace gained some liveliness. Li Shuo was naturally gifted, already able to recite the 1,000-character classic by heart at age 3. When Prince Ying occasionally visited the palace, Li Yunjian would always ask him half-jokingly, "Is this child really yours?" "He is your Majesty's now." Wen Yangxing held Li Shuo, and chuckled softly nearby, yet sighed inwardly. The one who truly understood things in this palace was none other than Prince Ying. Perhaps because Li Shuo's arrival gave Wen Yangxing something new to live for, her health actually improved for a time, and she managed to hold on for another 14 years. When Li Shuo was 11 years old, Wen Yangxing's lamp of life finally ran dry. The child cried his heart out by her sick bed. Yet Li Yunjian only gripped her gradually cooling hand tightly, not saying a word. "Don't let the historians record my posthumous title, write my name instead." This was her final wish. So Li Yunjian leaned close to her ear, softly calling out Wen Yangxing again and again, until she peacefully closed her eyes. At first, Wen Yangxing's passing didn't seem to break him. He still attended court, handled state affairs, reviewed memorials, and taught Li Shuo. But whenever he unknowingly wandered to Cunning Palace and gazed at the empty halls, it was as if all his strength was drained away, and he wished he could cry out loud in that void. Only then did Li Yunjian realize. He seemed to have loved Wen Yangxing even more than he had imagined. And so, for the rest of his life, besides governing the nation and teaching his son, there was one more thing missing Wen Yangxing. He personally compiled a volume called Chronicles of the Emperor and Empress, which recorded an old story. When he first ascended the throne, Li Yunjian never kept Wen Yangxing away when discussing state affairs. Although some court officials secretly hinted that it was improper, he acted as if he didn't notice, and continued to do so. Wen Yangxing actually knew full well, yet pretended not to, quietly accompanying him by his side to listen, never interrupting. Later, as her health gradually declined, she no longer accompanied him to attend court. One day when Li Yunjian came looking for her after court, she happened to be receiving second sister-in-law Zheng. He heard Lady Zheng cheerfully talking about how she had recently dismissed the concubines and brought her husband completely under control. Wen Yangxing smiled and responded, "With such companionship, second sister-in-law and brother will surely grow old together. So will Yangxing and your majesty." Through the heavy doors, he heard her sigh softly. "I can only go this far." Li Yunjian thought she was lamenting that she couldn't accompany him to the end. Only later, recalling the past when she attended court with him, did he suddenly realize she was lamenting that, in this life, she could only rise as high as empress. The more he reminisced, the more he sensed the deeper meaning of the past. The more it was so, the more he loved her. In the year Li Shuo turned 24, Li Yunjian abdicated the throne. He lived to the age of 56. No consorts were buried with him, only Empress Rusheng, Wen Yangxing, sharing the same coffin and tomb.